Hey everybody, welcome back to another Ninja RMM MSP Live Chat. Great to see folks in the chat already chiming in, familiar faces. We got Cliff, we got Ray, we got Dan, we got our friends from Montreal, Matt from Valiant. This is awesome. Glad to see everybody. And look around at this. I've got a ton of beautiful faces with me here on the screen too. So as always, Tom Watson, Ninja RMM Channel Chief Advisor. Hey Tom.
How you doing?
And we got our special marketing expert guest. So JP Rowe from Your Sales Energy. JP, what's going on?
Hey, thanks for coming, everybody. Good to see you.
JP has been on a few chats in the past, definitely active in the chat and engaging with folks. So thanks for doing that, JP, and awesome to have you on. You've got some really cool stuff you're going to share with us.
Thanks for having me. We
got Jimmy from Skout. Jimmy is Skout's Director of Marketing, and Jimmy, I'm so excited to have you on here. I've been wanting to do stuff with you guys for a long time, and I think the big thing that really drove me to reach out to you for this was seeing you sitting upside down on your head in a Reddit ad.
Yep, that was very flattering when you said, "Hey, I saw you in a Reddit ad upside down on your head. Can you come talk for me?"
So we're
super glad to be here.
Yeah, you'll be doing that handstand a little bit later, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could maybe do some flips too. I don't know. I mean, could jump off the couch. I don't know.
We'll see what the audience wants. We got to give them what they want,
Yeah.
We'll launch a poll for that. But no, Jimmy's doing awesome stuff with Skout, making marketing templates and free advice and free tips available. We're definitely going to get to some of that too. And then we got Kevin Clune from MSP Growth Hacks. Kevin, we had you on probably around a year ago at this point, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was like last April, something like that. So yeah, I think this is my third time. So I'm like,
wow, rubbing it in. You're the veteran. Okay. Yeah, well, it's awesome to have you back. And of course, you've got some really cool stuff you're going to be sharing with us. And you launched a poll on LinkedIn. You asked people kind of what, I don't know if to call it a shortcut or a hack or what, but you're going to be showing a really cool hands-on kind of demo of some of the tricks that you do in terms of cranking out content. So welcome everybody again. If you're new to live chats, it's freewheeling. It's interactive. Definitely dive into the chat. You'll see a lot of people are saying hi already. Ask us questions. Share your own experiences. We want to hear from you guys just as much as I'm sure you want to hear from us. This is a time where you guys can connect with each other. If you're doing some cool things on the marketing front and you want to share them, that would be amazing. Put them in the chat. Share some links. If you want to come on screen, we'll have you on too if you got some cool things to share. Just to give you a little idea of what's going to go on, I've got a resources doc that I always share, and I can pull this up on the screen here. I'm going to drop another link to it here in the chat. So this is your document to keep, and we're going to be updating it after the chat's over. I'm sure we're going to have a ton of additional resources to add, and so I'll throw those in there so you can come back to this doc and kind of dive in and get links to some of the stuff we're going to be talking about. Also, we're being recorded, so I think a minute after the broadcast is over, the screen will automatically refresh with a recording, so you'll have that. We'll also follow up with an email. So guys, we're here to talk about marketing, collateral, cranking out content. And before we dive into, we've got tools, we've got tricks and shortcuts that we're going to be showing off. Before we do all that, I think we decided we wanted to really set the stage in terms of let's be realistic about this stuff. And we launched a couple of polls. It would be great if the audience could chime in here. When it comes to being an MSP owner, if you're a smaller shop, or even if you're larger, I mean, you're busy. We're going to show you some things that can save you time in terms of doing this type of stuff yourself. But I think before we get into it, we really got to address this question. How much time is realistic? And who should be really doing this stuff anyway? What kind of stuff do you need to have in place? And JP, I'm going to cut it over to you right off the bat to give us some cold water. To tell us, just because this is something you work with clients with all the time, and you've been thinking a lot about. So, any words to kick off in terms of let's set back and set some expectations.
Well, you have a link in there to the article I wrote prior to this, because it's a really long topic to get into, and I really don't want to just spend an hour on that. So if anybody wants to see kind of my full history and where I'm drawing my conclusions from, I would check out that article. In short, I worked for an agency before, forming this one with Jamie Williams. I have experience as a freelancer, and I know how long stuff takes to do in general. And really the most logical conclusion that I could come up with while, mulling this over, where should you spend your time if you only have a couple hours a week? The logical conclusion was to be hyper-focused and really think about your objective. And the objective is where you're going to find success. It all starts there, because you got to work backwards from what you're trying to do. And I think the biggest mistake that a do-it-yourself marketer makes is right at the very beginning, they go into it trying to figure out how to do everything themselves, how to build out this complete marketing machine. And they're kind of thinking, a year or two from now, it's going to have all these automations. I'm going to have email. I'm going to have social media. I'm going to have blog posts and SEO and all this stuff. I'm going to do it myself. And first of all, they can't do it. And they find out pretty quick that that's a lot of work to really try to do themselves. Second of all, they realize that's 15 or 20 different disciplines that I need to learn to be able to do it myself. And they get frustrated. And a lot of times that's why they end up giving up, and they'll go back to not doing any marketing. If you change your objective, instead of saying, how am I going to do it all myself? And you make it, how am I going to generate enough new MRR to be able to afford marketing help? I think that's a lot more attainable. I mean, just logically, it's a lot more attainable, because now you're talking about maybe bringing on 1 or 2 new clients, and now you can farm it out to somebody else. You don't have to worry about learning it and doing it. And it's a lot easier for you to get 1 or 2 more clients with a focused approach than it is to say, how am I going to build all of this stuff that the internet is telling me I'm supposed to have? And that's the summary.
Well, thank you for that. Speaking of all that stuff the internet's telling everyone they should have. So in the doc here, I posted these, these images or whatever. I mean, the good news is never easier to just pump out content. We've got some cool tools. Everyone has access to more and more than ever. We're going to be showing you some of those a little bit later. Bad news is there's all this pressure to do it, right? I think we've all seen it. Everyone's streaming nonstop. Everyone's posting everywhere in like 12 different communities at once. We've got Alex Farling from Lifecycle. I know he was feeling this pain. He and I were talking about this a little while ago. There's a ton of pressure to just be out there everywhere and to be engaging and creating content and all that stuff. I got this. Want to chime in on that? Someone? I heard a breath. No.
No, you're so right. Especially like I do it myself because I'm a tech person. Like I come from an IT background, and it's like, oh, I need to edit this photo. Let me make a new photo editing app. It's like I can't use one that's already out there. Or like, I need to add, I need to cut up this video. Let me make, how can I script this? Like, what if and I'll spend all this time trying to reinvent the wheel, and there's a free tool that does it in 2 seconds all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, this came up exactly. This very thing came up where, I'm going to do a little plugging time here, but so we launched a series called MSP Breakthrough, and I saw people on LinkedIn, you see all these fancy videos that people have now where they do they're having the square image, they have the transcript and everything. And I was figuring out a way to do this with an editor, trying to do this in Hit Film Express or whatever, and doing it all on my own. And I was racking my brain thinking there's so much of this stuff out there. There has to be a tool. I was talking with Matt Fox from Valiant, who's on the chat here too. And sure enough, within Googling, 2 seconds later, he found something that called Subtitle. And then to add insult to injury, so we got Subtitle here. This tool is awesome. I'm going to show you a little bit more about this in a minute. But this will totally let you upload videos. It'll do the easy formatting. It'll do the transcript and everything. It's super easy for editing the transcript. It's awesome. It's a great tool. So Matt found that within 2 seconds of Googling, And then I look back to this blog post from Kevin Clune. We recognize that name. Back in September 2020, 25 inexpensive tools to create your own MSP marketing content. And look down here. Where is it? Subtitle. And like I shared this post. I had obviously read this. But it goes back to your point, Jimmy. Like I that's my tendency too, is to like get hands-on and do everything myself. And not always the best use time.
Like I'm caught in my own bubble. I spend so much time on our website. So anytime I leave and I'm on like Facebook or Instagram or anything, I'm bombarded with like tools. So, and I can't get away from it. So I'm getting like, literally I this morning I saw a new one called Content Fries. Now I'm going to have to check that out. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I'm just getting blitzed really just because the further I go, with what we're doing, I'm just discovering these tools like every day. And, just being a tinkerer, like, just as a lot of us are as marketers, you can't help but just try something out.
And I got to add that that's a perfect example of why somebody like Kevin is a great resource, because you could spend every minute of the rest of your life looking at every marketing tool that's out there. I mean, you could literally use your 2 hours a week just trying to figure out what you should be using. But if you have somebody like Kevin you could go to that actually uses his time and expertise to figure it out, that's just so much less work that you got to deal with.
Yeah, 100%. I want to bring up the doc one more time, because I think we kind of had a mantra going into this session, right? So I promise we're going to get to the cool tools and show you how to do some cool stuff. But before we do that, it really kind of dawned on me, like some good advice around this stuff is it really just the same advice that applies to service delivery, right? That MSPs are talking about all the time. In order to be efficient, it's all about developing routines, finding the right tools, figuring out shortcuts. It's basically like the fewer steps you have to use your brain on. If you can actually create templates and create automated things, then your process is going to be more scalable. It's going to be more repeatable. And so that's what we kind of wanted to focus on here, is what are the things that you can actually just take your brain power out of? Like, how can you remove that problem of staring at like the blank Google Doc or Word doc with the cursor just like mocking you, blinking, and like you're trying to figure out what am I going to write about today, or what am I going to create? So Kevin, you've got this this challenge here. We started off with like, this is a sample schedule, and then you were like, actually, this is really more of like a challenge. You want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, and it's a challenge because it's really not easy to do. But what's funny is like it's only 5% of your week, and so this really started. It's something that I work with my coaching clients, and I try to get them to just think about marketing every day, which is easier said than done. And so part of it is just spending that 20 to 30 minutes and knowing what you're going to spend that 20 to 30 minutes on. So it's very easy to just be like, okay, I'm going to spend this time on marketing when I'm thinking about it. But then once you go to do it, you're stuck, you're frozen, you don't know what to act on. And so it's really about developing just a habit of thinking about marketing every day, and then give you something to actually think about while you're doing it. And so it's really, how much time can you dedicate? You don't need, to JP's point, like you don't need to become a full-time marketer. And honestly, a lot of this stuff can be outsourced and probably should be. But the point is, we've experimented with a lot of different things, from like doing monthly batching and this and that. And I just found that like the daily accountability, no matter how small it was, even if it was like 5 minutes, actually ended up having like more active. And I can tell, like when I go to meet with someone that I haven't talked to in a week, which is what happens, when I do coaching, I can tell when they haven't been thinking about anything that we talked about from the previous week. So it's, you know what I mean? And so that is the big thing, is like having this sort of like weekly run through and just being accountable to it really helps to keep you on track and see the big picture and how all these things connect. So
Tom, when you're looking at this, as a former owner, and being in that mindset of what your day-to-day was like, what's some of your reactions?
Well, I actually, one of the things I want to talk about was something I've noticed I do. I have a tendency to check LinkedIn every morning and look through it and maybe even read a few posts of articles. But then I look back at that time and I was like, I'm not using that time wisely. If I'm going to spend 10 minutes, why don't I make comments on a few? Maybe reshare one once a week. And I look at it, but going back to your question, and that's kind of like looking at that time and how you use it. You're probably doing it. You probably have this time already. And the perspective, you're probably spending the time on social media already, but you might not be maximizing your use of it because you're not doing these things that Kevin has laid out. So as an owner, I would look at it and be like, well, how much time am I already spending on social media? Am I already on Mondays probably looking through it for 20 minutes? I probably am. Let me just redirect some of those efforts and follow some of these helpful tips that Kevin has in here. Let me, liking's all right, but let me comment on a few. Let me reshare a few. Let me take down some ideas for other content I want to do. Let's devote 20 minutes per week to kind of brand effort. Let's make a little bit on the lead nurturing and just take that time you're otherwise using, focus it in maybe on one platform, and follow the tips.
Yeah, look at your screen. Like if you look on your phone and you see like how much screen time you have.
Okay.
It's pretty obvious where your time's going in a lot of cases. So anyone that says they don't have 20 minutes a day, just look at that because you'll realize immediately, okay, it's like I do. And you know what? A lot of this stuff that I just put on there, like you could do that on your phone. So you don't have to, maybe you shouldn't to be more efficient, but you obviously could. So to Tom's point, he's right. It's like, you do have that time. I can really relate it to like saying I don't have time to exercise. If I really wanted to exercise, I would take the time, but you have to be ready. You have to be ready to like commit to a weight loss goal the same way as like you have to be ready to commit to a marketing and growth goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had one more thing on that. And one thing I'd like to note is it doesn't have to take a lot of time to do it. Like Kevin's got in here, try to create 2 posts per week. And we're going to get into the tool JP's bringing. And that's great to create a post. But also just creating a post that's just pure text is actually very effective, or real video. There's one I did a couple of weeks ago, people probably saw, where I just took a clip from the movie Office Space. And I pulled the clip off of, first a couple of things, I pulled it off, I captured it off of YouTube. I didn't push to YouTube because I wanted to make it so it was native inside LinkedIn. But I pulled that clip off. It was 30 seconds. That took me, a minute to pull. And then I wrote a little bit of text, and I got 1,300 views. And I think, like 20 some likes and a bunch of reshares. I put all of maybe 2 minutes into creating that post.
And really going back to something Tom said, I don't want to speed by it too quickly because it's really important. You said something about just doing LinkedIn, for example, and not spreading yourself really thin is a huge component of this. If you have limited resources, limited time, then that's why I said hyper-focused when I was talking about going after 1 or 2 targets. It's important to give, what did we say earlier? It's better to do 100% in one place than try to do 10 things and give 10% in each one. You're not going to get the ROI. So yeah, finding a few things that you are seeing a little bit of success with or that you're comfortable with doing and sticking to those is definitely a good strategy.
Yeah, something else Tom said, like LinkedIn especially, 90% of people on LinkedIn don't post anything. It is cheap engagement. You get tons of views on your posts. I mean, I go on LinkedIn and I see posts from 2 weeks ago all the time.
Yeah, totally.
So simply commenting on something, posting something, you're going to get way more views than you would on posting something on Instagram or LinkedIn or, any Facebook per connections. I found that if something gets just like 20, 30 likes on LinkedIn, I'll get 2,000, 3,000 views when I only have 3,000 or 4,000 connections. So that means if it's mostly my connections looking at it, almost all my connections are seeing that post. So LinkedIn is definitely a space, like people are scared to comment because it's business or scared to post because it's business, but just do it. We're people, it's people you're connected to. It's not companies. So just do it.
So Jimmy, with some of the stuff that you're doing there, are you doing video? Are you posting all sorts of stuff?
Yeah, Yes, James is Jimmy from Skout. Yeah, so I do video, I do pictures. It's funny, like I'll do long text posts a lot, but the best engagement I'll get is just like human pictures. Like the other day, I posted a picture of myself in a green shirt on my green couch in the background on St. Patrick's Day, and that got like way more engagement than like any post that I like spend a half hour writing up about like COVID and the future of the economy and blah 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 blah. Because at the end of the day, people, it's people we're connected to. It's not like some, yeah. But everything. I like to try things. Try not to, stress too much when I'm going to post. Just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of people. I wanted to us to share some examples of different things. And so, one example, you guys, a lot of people on here may be familiar with Bob. Bob Coppage. He's a owner of an MSP. In the Midwest, and he's also he's the co-managed guy, the co-managed IT guy. He's done a great job of really kind of owning that topic, and he's got a very active Facebook group. And if you follow Bob on LinkedIn, then my God, you're going to see all sorts of Bob. Like he, if we go down to his activity here, he posts videos all the time, and I reached out to him to kind of ask him how he was doing this. It's all pretty short. First of all, they're all like a minute to 3 minutes tops. It's these short, snackable clips, right? And then he's got this. You'll see how we this is what got me thinking about using subtitle in terms of the text and everything. But he's got that through. So like my feed is constantly, like Bob has like wormed his way into my brain because I just see it so much. He's just so consistent with all this. And he's got a process for it, and his process is pretty simple. Like he comes up with the ideas, and so he's got like basically a backlog of like, here's the topics I'm going to cover. Oh, he's getting heated there. You can see, and he basically he keeps it short. He gives like an intro, 3 bullet points, an outro, and then he outsources this. And so like where my nature, I was the tinkerer. I wanted to get a tool to do it. Bob just found someone on, I believe, Fiverr to go do some of this work for him. So there's lots of ways you can do it. But I just thought this was an interesting example to point out, like, A, it doesn't have to be super polished. B, it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, like mind-blowing or long, this epic thing that you're creating out there in terms of thought leadership. A big key of it is just being consistent. And to Jimmy's point, I mean, LinkedIn, like the video content, if you're constantly or consistently producing it, you're going to be found.
Yeah. Being a perfectionist will definitely hinder your marketing. I mean, the first year that I tried doing videos, I would spend 4 hours shooting a 20-minute video and then trying to edit it. And then I'd throw it away because I didn't like the way my hair looked or something. Like, it was ridiculous. And finally, I just got to the point where shoot it, cut out anything at the beginning and the end, and post it up there. Like, and the obviously the production value went a little bit down, but the production consistency went way up, and it paid off in the end. And Tom, like, giving a recommendation about video marketing, let's say you were to say to an MSP right now, where would you put your videos if you were to do it?
I mean, for me, I find that I need to focus what I know about in terms of engagement in one area. So I would do LinkedIn. I already mentioned in here in the chat, Dan Comas is doing some really great stuff on LinkedIn where he talks about passwords and other things that you should be aware of. Clearly, going after a local MSP market. And that's kind of a good model to follow. I mean, I would absolutely look at that. He's up there live. He's talking about it. I think you got captions, all of that built in, and kind of focus on that. I'm looking for engagement because I want to also engage people in the comments, get a lot of back and forth, and then engage in other people's posts too. And then they will come and engage in yours.
Yeah, I called you out on that one, Tom, because I noticed you generally kill it with your video posts on LinkedIn. I mean, they usually are pretty popular.
Well, I think
too.
Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
On LinkedIn, like if you're just getting started on LinkedIn, don't be scared to ask people to engage with your content. Like the LinkedIn algorithm, for whatever reason, whatever traction it gets in the first like hour or 2 hours, really determines or heavily influences how far the post goes. So if you have coworkers or people, colleagues or people that you have worked with in the past or friends, like just send them the post and say like, hey, would you mind commenting on this or mind liking this? Especially if you're trying to get started.
We actually wrote an article on this yesterday. And it's funny because I kind of mentioned that same thing of like the magic hour. And so one of the things that we were talking about was more so the process of like figuring out. So everyone has maybe like 5 to 10 people that are like automatic engagements, right? It's like they're your biggest cheerleaders. So like find out when they're active. Like if they all take lunch at noon, post at noon. You know what I mean? Like, or post at 11:30, because those are the people that are engaging with you anyway. So if you can maximize like when they're on the platform, or just ask them, or use a LinkedIn poll to like send out and find out like when is my specific audience active, like then now you're sort of like hacking that theory and you're saying like, okay, these people that I know will engage, here's when they're all on. So now I'm increasing my odds at like passing that first 1 hour test.
And Alex here just said something about authenticity, and I got 100% agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I've over the course of COVID, we've seen so many people trying to develop personal brands, especially on LinkedIn, and they're putting themselves in front of the camera, and you can see on a lot of them that it's almost like they're reading out of the LinkedIn influencer playbook or something. Like they're reading it off a script, like, hey, I'm really into this hobby, and aren't you? And it's like, it doesn't fly. I don't think, I mean, at least I don't respond to it because you can pick it out right away. But Jimmy said something about humanizing, and that's absolutely true. I mean, in a world where MSPs are always saying we can't differentiate, we all sell the same things. You're not the same people. You can differentiate with who you are, not what you sell. And that's a big part of what we do when it comes to developing brands.
I'm going to post in the chat there that because we're talking about video a lot. So this was actually our last topic. I think a lot of people I recognize made it on there. But for those who didn't, we had some folks on who have been posting, doing tons in terms of video. And that doc has a big list of equipment and tips in terms of like lighting, in terms of cameras, audio. And it's got specific links to like if you want to buy those things or what, and you can do things on a pretty small budget too. So for anyone interested in doing more video, that could be helpful. So I think we should dive into some of the tools we're using and some of the things that we wanted to show off. Before we do, I guess one last thing about being able to scale this stuff and having a model that's repeatable. There's another example I wanted to show from LinkedIn that I thought was kind of interesting. And this is from a VC. And my point in showing this is basically he's made it, okay, I'm going to post to LinkedIn the series of videos. And they've done it in a way where it's like, at the beginning of the week, I'm going to show off what topics we're covering. And then he posts 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can tell he's a VC because he can wear the backwards hat and still be professional. He's in tech. And so, but Blake, he's doing a great job with these things, getting a ton of engagement around them. And he's developed this kind of concept in this format, right? So it's PLG, it stands for product-led growth, 1, 2, 3. And so he just has these short 1 minute and 30 second, videos. Instead of doing one thing where he covers 3 topics in one video, he slices them up and he's positioned it like, hey, LinkedIn, I'm going to be doing this every week. And he calls them tabs. And so I'm going to cover the first topic on Monday, keep an eye out for the next one that's coming on Wednesday, and then the third one on Friday. He records this all in one go. This is a tip that Bob gave too, is he's not doing these like one at a time. He records a bunch all in one go when he has like a Friday where things are light. And then he's able to kind of schedule these things out. So it's just little things like that where you can actually get maybe more bang for your buck, where you're kind of spreading some things out. I just thought it was an interesting idea.
And also, don't be afraid to repeat kind of the overarching topic of what you're producing content about. And it's funny because we actually started to see infinitely more success with our own marketing when we started doing that, because early on I would try to do videos about different marketing subjects, but then as the company pivoted and we really started to specialize in our strength, which is, you know, differentiation and branding, I did all my videos about that topic, and a lot of them said almost the exact same things, but in different contexts with different stories and whatnot. And now people are contacting us, MSPs are reaching out to us and actually saying, oh, I watched 5 of your videos and I loved everything you said. And really, I said the same thing in all 5, but it's consistent and it reinforces the same idea. And that's a big part of it.
JP, you want to show off, let's show off the portal, right? I think it's a good time to dive into it, because this is a really great resource for everybody. This is free. There is some registration that's behind a registration form. But that said, JP is I mean, I guess I won't steal your thunder. You can talk about it. But you basically put together a huge library of content templates, and they're all built in Canva, so they're super customizable. So yeah, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I mean, we had this idea years ago when we were thinking about ways to implement it. It's actually saying I can't share my screen. There's too many sources. So if you want to.
Oh yeah, I'll drop this one off.
Drop that one.
There you go.
So, yep, select window.
I'm going to share a link for folks too.
And by the way, when JP showed me this, I was blown away. This is so cool what he's about to show everyone.
Okay, so yeah, thank you. Yeah, for sure. It's been a rough road to try to figure out how to make this as accessible as possible. But what we wanted to do is really just make a legitimately free resource that could help MSPs do their marketing. And, you know, in all of our experience in the channel, it always comes back to content, having something to put out there. That's often the hardest part. And since our agency really does specialize in position.
Uh-oh.
Weapon.
There we go. You're back.
Oh,
it was a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Tune in next week. So oh, and now I lost my train of thought, completely derailed. No,
you're basically saying, yeah, your agency specializes in positioning. So for this, you're kind of like, well, let's give them the resource, right?
Yeah. So we're basically saying like, hey, you know, when you stop and think about it strategically, marketing and lead generation, content shouldn't be the thing you're necessarily spending so much time thinking about, because it can really be fairly straightforward. So we're going to give it to you for free. And this is sort of the beta iteration of this portal. And for now, it's free. And if you sign up for it today, it'll be free forever. We're never going to retroactively try to get anybody to pay for this. So I would definitely recommend, while we're still building it out, go get it, go sign up. There are a bunch of resources in here, but the main thing that we're here to talk about is the marketing materials. And this is the library that we are constantly adding stuff to. If you're already a member, I know there's a couple of hundred of you out there already, and you're watching this. I will say, yes, it's been a little bit since we added something new. It's because I did run into catching COVID, and it took me out of the game for about a month, and I'm kind of a bottleneck on this one. But we have like a 2-month backlog of content that I need to get loaded in here, all brand new stuff. And it's pretty much everything you can think of. Infographics. We're going to try to add some more email campaigns. I think there's only one in there right now, but they're basically like copy and paste them into your automation email campaigns, ebooks, social media posts. I even have been experimenting with SEO briefs, which will basically tell you, based off of our research, sort of how to structure a series of blog posts if you want to write them yourself, and what headlines you should kind of build around to try to get that to rank higher on that keyword phrase. That's kind of a new experiment. But the graphics and everything is what everybody's super into, right? So here's an example of an ebook, right? Go in, it's all yours. Once you've signed up, 100% free. You go in, and we have multiple ebooks in there that are 15, 16, 17 pages long. And, you know, considering I started off my marketing career a long, long time ago as a freelancer making stuff like this, I can tell you that this is probably something you'd pay like a couple $100 for, unless you were able to go really, really cheap. But it had to be written. I mean, the writing is usually where the money comes in. And so you can come in, put your name on this, put your company name in there, you know, read through it, make sure you agree with everything that we said in there, because you might need to change some products or whatever to fit your needs, but it's all editable. That's the great thing about Canva. That's why we use this as the graphic design platform, because it is free. We do recommend, and we don't make a dime off of this, so this is just an honest recommendation. For $12.99 a month, you get the paid version, and there's a couple little features in there that are definitely worth having. One of them is access to their whole stock photo and graphics library. And if you've ever paid for stock photos, you know that's a really good deal. I mean, I can't think of anything out there that beats it, to be able to have access to all these images and graphics for $13 a month. But essentially, yeah, you can come in. Everything is drag and drop, point and click, change the title. You can type in your name, change the graphics out. We made it all very simple.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about this, JP, if you don't mind me jumping in, is like Jimmy and I were looking at this, and both Jimmy and I we work with vendors, right? And we create white labeled, you know, marketing materials. Jimmy was telling me about his process. He's got a coworker that he has customized thousands of documents at a time. And I've always had problems with this too, where, you know, how do we release something where, you know, we're doing like Word documents and expecting people to actually download this and then tweak the design in Word, and you make a small change and everything breaks, and it's just kind of hard. Canva is a cool solution to this. And a couple of questions have come up while you've been talking about this, JP. They're important to address. Colleen, first of all, you know, you mentioned the point of like everybody having the same thing and then posting that. Are you going to be penalized by Google? I mean, we're looking at an ebook right now, and I think the idea would be that this would, first of all, you'd be gating it. It's not going to be crawlable by Google necessarily. But second of all, I think, JP, you would make the point, like, this is really just made to get people started, right? Like, you absolutely need to be customizing things. And
sort of speaking to like the philosophical meaning behind this portal, it's to illustrate that this part is not really the hardest part. The part that we focus on for our clients, and the part that we preach, and the thing that I'm out there to really evangelize about, is the need to be competitive in your marketing, not just loud, and not volume, but quality of what you're saying and communicating. And so this is actually sort of like a little backwards illustration of, hey, this is how simple it is for you to get the content. Now it's up to you to do the really hard part and figure out what you're going to say with the content, with your emails, with whatever you're putting out there, that is going to make somebody look at you and say they're the better choice. So yeah, we absolutely endorse coming in here and putting your unique proposition there. It's putting something good about your company instead of the headline that we have there. Now, speaking to being penalized on Google, there's a reason why we don't put articles in here, because that would be kind of pointless. It's the same way we tell everybody don't waste your money on syndication, because it's really going to have almost no effect on your SEO. But we did the SEO briefs, and that was our way of helping as best we could to get you across the finish line. So that brief gives you so many guidelines that at least you're not starting with a blank page. And Jonathan, you're really right. That's the hardest part. When even me as a writer, 20 years I've been writing, I hate looking at a blank page when it's time to start. I mean, that's always the most difficult part to get over. You know, you start with an outline. Once you get the headlines in there, once you get some kind of idea in there, it looks like a much easier challenge. And so we're giving you the headlines. We're giving you a framework to at least guide creating any of the stuff that you want to make, so that you're not looking at the blank page.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, looking at this too, there's going back to the very beginning of the call, there's the decision that you can make, right? Like, do you have the time to actually dive in and do even this? Or is it better to outsource? That's always going to be an option, and you have to make that decision yourself. But it's cool to see that this is here and available, if for nothing else, to get ideas. Because, I mean, you get that long list of content. I mean, that's a ton of ideas right there. And then second of all, to like you're saying, have something to start with. And then third of all, showing how Canva makes the basic design stuff super easy.
Yeah, and the idea was to make this as useful for as many different people as possible, regardless of where they are in the company. You might have a marketing intern, right? A marketing intern could come in here and say, wow, this just took hours of my workload away because at least I'm not starting with nothing. Sure, I have to go in and I have to change maybe even all of the written copy. They might want to change it, but they're still starting farther ahead than if they had to start from nothing, right? So it's, in fact, a lot of the people who have given us really good feedback on the portal and they've been using it a lot are marketing, internal marketing teams or a marketing manager, because it just does. It makes their workload easier. It gives them a place to start, gives them ideas. And just to throw this out there, Canva, if you do the paid version, has some really cool automation tools built in. So like with this social media 20 posts, you can actually schedule them to go out on Twitter, LinkedIn, a few different ones, Facebook, and you can schedule each individual post to go out on a different day. So you don't have to export any of this and like put it into Buffer or anything like that. It's all pretty much built in there. And the paid version of Canva even has a content calendar built in.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, that for me, being able to tackle this all in one sitting, basically, where I'm like, my mind's still in it. I'm not having to context switch, to go back and then create another share. Like if I can all just do that in one, if I can sit down and be like, okay, here's like 3 different versions of the headline or whatever messaging I want to use with this image, and I can just schedule everything out. That's pretty great.
I'd like to point out like how I might use something like this. I think we pointed out there's some discussion and JP and Jonathan addressed some of it. But one, you're probably going to want to use something like, you might put it on your website, but how I would use it is I would look at this. I'd probably customize it quite a bit. Put my name on it. I might change some of the title. I might change some of the text. I might do something like use the LinkedIn publishing tool and paste it into there. So then it's a link. It's within the LinkedIn kind of universe. But I'm really going to use it. I'm going to primarily reference it, but I'm going to use it to create engagement. So I'm probably going to ask people questions. Hey, it says this. If you read my book, you'll see this on page whatever. And here's a quote. Do you agree with this? Because what I want to do is drive engagement through it. So I'm not as concerned much that someone reads the whole thing or they get into it. I want them to see that I'm a serious MSP, that I'm producing things like this, but then I want the conversation to carry out of it. And that's going to be what's really going to drive people coming to my business.
Yeah, absolutely. How you use it is infinitely more important than how much of it you have, right? So the idea is to take, and we've tried and we're continuing to sort of evolve how we're delivering this content to make it as easy as possible to use. But the idea is to give you everything you need to build a lead gen funnel. I mean, everything from the emails to the associated post for LinkedIn and the lead magnet, which is usually the most expensive or time consuming thing to make, which would be your ebook or something like that. And, you can just pull all that out, change it as much as you have time for. And, then you can focus on learning the automation and things like that you also have to know to be effective. I did want to point out real quick before I forget, another thing that we have on here at the bottom of the list is if you're a member, you'd have to be a member to get here. You can request specific things to be made, and we try to get something produced for that fairly quickly. All you have to do is put in your email and kind of what you're looking for. We've done it a few times already, and the turnaround's been pretty quick. But like, let's say you're going after a specific vertical and you need a white paper or something like that, then it'll go in the library. Everybody's going to have access to it, but it'll be what you're asking for, and you can still make changes to it if you want to.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, we'll have the link in the doc. I shared it above in the chat too, but we'll make sure that everybody has the link for it to check it out. Let's keep going with the tools because we're down to 15 minutes left. And I want to make sure that Kevin, you've got a chance to show off something that that you wanted to share too.
Yeah, so we put a poll out to our audience and gave a few options really of like what we should share. What everyone really decided would be important was like the thing, we do lead magnets, and I was always trying to figure out like what is the best way to create lead magnets. I even went into Canva. I was playing around. I'm familiar with InDesign a little bit, but there's not a ton of great templates. And so I just had this sort of like moment where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to use PowerPoint. Like I know PowerPoint really well. Everybody really knows PowerPoint really well. And for William, who's asking about lead magnets, it's essentially what JP's showing. It's like an ebook, a guide, a resource, anything that you could sort of put behind a registration form that is of value. And so what we try to do is like, I try to do anything that we put behind some sort of like registration form, like it's got to be like 50 pages or more. I'm not saying that they all have to if you're doing them, but I'm just saying like, as far as us, like we want to make sure like this is valuable. It's a lot of content, and that someone that's going to register in order to download it is like, they're going to get value. And so, where we go for the templates, and I'll show you my screen. It's called Slides Go, and it's actually pretty cool. Like it's $2 a month to get these premium templates, and so like technology. A lot of these templates have like 80 plus or more slides within them. And so all you need, this is actually
that looks familiar.
It looks familiar, right? And so this is a template called Smart City. And so essentially, I had a project that we were collaborating with a company who's really great. They're called Workland Partners. And so they had this awesome article that they wrote, and really like no one saw it. And I was like, guys, like this is incredible content. Like, why aren't you putting this out there? And so they just had it sitting on a blog. And I was like, you know what, let's actually turn this into like a really valuable resource. We'll put some visuals to it, and we'll put it out there. And so, that essentially combined with this very simple template led to this. And it's, obviously there's some work that goes into it to plug it in, but a lot of this can be outsourced. So like it's a great starting point. If you were to say like, okay, I have this content, I'm going to combine it now with this template because I know visually what I want it to look like. And then now you can just pass those two things off to somebody. They can combine them and they can produce the end product. And so there are ways like with the premium templates, you can change the themes. So if I go to like view, slide master, you can change the theme. So if you have a theme that's with your branded colors, you can choose it, and then it'll automatically update any theme colors like within. So this could almost instantly change over to your color palette. So it's just a really easy way. And then like what we do with them when we have them. So like we will put them into embedded in the articles. So you can see like right in the middle of our content, it'll be an opportunity to download it. We also do exit intent forms. So let's see if I go here and then I go to leave, probably not, there you go. So, it's a great opportunity. And to be honest, like this, if you have the content or you have it written, or, you could start with what JP has. And, let's say he has an SEO brief, and you could actually turn it into something that's pretty valuable. You just pass that off to someone, write the content, combine it with the template. And then, we typically put it behind a landing page, which I'll show you here. And anyone that's on Divi, I can actually send you our landing page template, which we've used several times, which is very high converting. So, and that's it. It's pretty simple. It's like a pretty tight process. It just starts with knowing like where to go to get the template, customizing the template, and then, making sure that the content actually fits the objective.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JP.
Oh, before we run out of time, I'd like to plug my my solution to that question about what are you saying that's going to bring that value to actually increase your conversions. Another free thing. Another free thing, if you go to the portal, there's access to it. If you go to our webpage at yoursalessynergy.com, there's access to it. But I wrote a book on differentiating your MSP, and it goes very deep into detail about the things that every MSP has ever come to us and said they can't do. How we do it, how we differentiate, how we make sure that you look competitive when you're talking about your company. And I would definitely recommend reading it. It's free. And then we even have a free email course. So when you're done with the book, if you want to sign up for that, it's an 8-week email course that will further walk you through the process.
Nice. Awesome. And I wanted, because we are short on time, I want to give Jimmy a chance to show off some cool stuff too. But before I do, just wanted to call attention to this doc again and mention that we've listed out and linked to a bunch of the tools, and I've even listed some pricing where pricing's available. And really the idea being, like, if you think about it this way, zero in on what aspect of getting more collateral out there is really holding you back, taking up the most time. Maybe it's every single one, or maybe it's just a portion of it. And focus on what can you do to create some shortcuts, to use templates to automate stuff. Ideas, this is something that Kevin put together too, kind of in lieu of a blog subscriber. Maybe you can subscribe to the blog too, Kevin. You can correct me if I'm wrong. You can sign up for MSP Spark, and it's an awesome, like, every Monday, Kevin sends an email where you get 10 different ideas around a subject. So there may be like data protection for 1 week, and you'll have 10 different content ideas, and Kevin won't create the content for you, but you'll have the idea. Then you could go right into JP's portal, or open up Canva, whatever you want to do. And you've got some content that you can spend a couple of minutes, 20 minutes that day pumping some stuff out. So that's a cool resource. And then we go down the different categories here. We've got a bunch of stuff here. We don't have time to get into them all, but I have seen, it's awesome. People are sharing alternatives to some of these tools in the chat. Thank you for doing that. And I'm going to go back in after this. I'm going to scrape the chat and or go back looking over the chat for links, and I'm going to update this. So this will be a cool list of tools for you guys. But Jimmy, stepping back for a second. So you're helping out Skout partners with marketing all the time. You mentioned you've been doing a lot of like white labeling stuff, updating things. You want to talk a little bit, now that we have a few minutes left, about kind of what's been working for them and for you, and maybe show something cool that you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. I think so our whole strategy at Skout, like my marketing strategy that I presented to everyone in the company and said, this is what we're doing, is to make content and tools to make selling cyber as a service easy for MSPs. So everything we do, any piece of marketing, any piece of sales stuff, I say, how does this relate to our strategy? Which makes it really easy to, promote getting templates and tools and stuff. I can share my screen. I think you have to stop sharing for a second. I got that too many.
Yeah, my fault. Gotcha.
Yeah,
there you go.
No problem. So this is actually our partner portal. Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
Okay. Give it a second.
Oh,
there it is.
There we go.
So this is our partner portal, and in our partner portal, we have things like sales email sequences, webinar toolkits. We actually will host your webinar for you and spin up the landing page and handle registrations and all that. And social media packs where, if you need something to post, so you're not staring at a blank screen, we put like 50 or 60 every single month. We put them in our partner portal where you can just download and copy and paste. And, we do things like we were talking about PowerPoint earlier. I thought it was funny because we actually came out with this earlier in the year, where you go into PowerPoint and you edit the slide master and you pick like a gradient or something that matches your brand, and you export everything as JPEGs. So this was like 50 posts, and we gave like sample suggested copy for it. But one of the most powerful assets we have in here, and you can recreate this, or I can send you a link, was this scoring rubric. And a lot of MSPs will use this or edit this to have sales conversations with their customers. So we were getting the same, our partners were getting the same objection over and over again. Why do I need more cybersecurity? I thought you were already doing this for me. So this was a scoring rubric where they could say, like, I don't know if anyone's ever heard that one in the chat, by the way. I thought you were doing this for me. Why do I need more? But you could talk through the services that you're already providing. And we actually have automated this as well. So in our partner portal, you can generate this content with recommendations. And this is really like the direction we're going. So I already filled this out and put in your sales energies information and put in their logo and all that. And it'll generate a report right from the portal with your own logo on it, your name, their company name, whatever custom contact information, and spit out the recommendations on how they can improve their security. So we've got tons of stuff in that partner portal. In addition, we also have a weekly email that we send out of where we include, it's called MSP Sales and Marketing Tips. And we actually include a free resource every single week in that newsletter. So I'll actually post the link to that in the chat if anybody wants to sign up. And then if you want to get access to our partner portal, just come talk to me.
Nice. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, I know you've had this be this has been a focus of yours for quite a while. And I remember back probably over a year ago, you sharing some social media templates that people could use for like Cybersecurity Awareness Month and things like that. So really cool that you guys, everybody here on this call is focused on helping people out with this stuff. Just got a couple minutes left, and we did have some questions. I'm really sorry I've kind of neglected these until the end. And while I'm looking at these, Tom, I know you wanted to say a couple of things in terms of bringing it back to the perspective of your, as an owner, if you're doing things over again, with all this in mind, all these tools, all these channels, all these possibilities, what are you focused on?
Yeah, there's great things here, and there's a lot of tools you can use. I think JP and Kevin really talked about you need to focus in your energy on where you can use your time. I can tell you, if I have maybe a young MSP, I've got limited time, I'm still doing tech work, here's what I'm going to do. I kind of touched on this earlier. 10 minutes at the start of each day, I'm going to review LinkedIn. I'm going to try to comment on 3 to 5 posts. Very important that those comments mean something. Just saying, hey, great post means nothing. That's not going to drive engagement because someone's not going to then do that. Try to pull a quote out of the post. Try to ask a question related to the post. Try to do something that's thinking about driving engagement forward. So 3 to 5 of those comments per day. And then on top of that, once a week, I'm going to go into JP's portal. I'm going to grab something that looks like a flyer or an ebook or something that would be interesting to potentially my market. I'm going to customize it. I'm going to throw it up on LinkedIn. I'm going to talk about it, maybe ask a question. Hey, what do you guys think about this? I'm also going to probably link back in the comments to something on my website. I'm also going to put that asset on my website as well. So it appears there too. So it does get crawled and picked up. And then what I'm going to try to do is then additionally do another post per week, something like Dan Comas, where I'm talking about some like password tips, security tips, something that's going to be for my local market. I'm going to put that in there. And maybe again, one other text post. You put this all together. I think Kevin could probably speak to. I could probably get that all done in maybe 20 minutes each morning per week, maybe even within four mornings out of the week. So a total of like 80 minutes. I think that's a very small percentage of the day, and it's probably pretty easily addressable.
Yeah, and what do you think, Kevin? I mean, because you've got folks who are clients right now who are aiming to do this sort of thing. What are hangups, or what are things that they've really kind of succeeded at?
Yeah, I mean, like that time ask really goes down over time. I think that like if you just start immediately, and like it's going to take you a little bit to figure these things out. You're going to get your processes, but then eventually, like, you know, what really used to take you 45 minutes to make a newsletter, now suddenly you can do it in 20 minutes. And so that's what the important thing to say is, like, you might not have that amount of time now and that it takes you right now, But ultimately, like as you get into these habits and you start doing it, eventually this just becomes like automatic. You know how to turn out a newsletter, you know how to turn out a social post, and you have all the resources available, whether it's like JP's. I saw some people mention like Paul's MSP Marketing Edge, which is a great one. There's a lot of different ones out there. And honestly, like you could use all of them. Like there's no reason why you should have one resource and not have the other. There's actually very little overlap. They're not producing the same thing. So it just makes sense to like, if it's worth it and you're getting value from it and you're actually using it, then yeah, like take advantage of everything that your vendors are putting out there, marketing, communities are putting out there, anybody that you can, anything you can get your hands on, it just adds to your arsenal and helps cut down that amount of time that you're putting into this.
And 100%. And I think I'll close. We're right at the top of the hour here, and I know some people got to jump. But thanks everybody who does have to jump for joining. I'm going to answer one question here before we all leave, if that's okay. And this is from Kelvin Teglar, the Microsoft MVP and PowerShell guru. He's asking, are there any metrics to aim for regarding LinkedIn engagement, example, 5x your followers, etc.? And I think this is a cool question because it really gets to what is your objective, right? And I think the advice that Kevin, you were just giving, and JP certainly was, if you're getting targeted, if you have an ideal customer in mind, if that's geo-specific or if it's industry-specific, growing your overall followers like 5x, I mean, is that really going to help you hit that goal of getting in front of those people specifically? I guess that's the kind of type of question I would ask, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say that, our process always begins now, after years of learning a lot of things the hard way. It begins with audience targeting, 100%, very deep dive into, and because we're not just talking about like, oh, let's fill out the little ideal client form and it has a couple of form fields on it. We're talking, choosing based off of who you're currently working with that you can get social proof from, who you have success with that you can repeat, and then a lot of research of actually researching the market, the viability of those targets, is it sustainable. And then the more you do that, it seems like a lot of front loading of work, and you're sitting there thinking like, man, every minute I'm spending doing this, I'm not sending an email, but it pays off. It pays huge dividends when you actually know exactly who you're going after.
Yeah, I would add on to that too, in terms of the front loading of thinking about, coming back to like a concept of how you're doing, if you're going to be consistently posting, giving yourself like a conceit, and it doesn't have to be this cheesy over the top hook or whatever, but giving yourself some guardrails and a framework. And I think if you have that figured out and you're like, okay, I know I'm going to cover X, Y, and Z for every video. Every video is going to be like 2 minutes long, 1 minute long. I'm going to cover these 3 things. And then that's your format. That's going to make things so much easier for you going down the road because you're not recreating the wheel every time, right?
Yeah, 45 seconds and throw in the burned in captions. I think that's about an ideal post.
All right, guys. Well, we're over time, but thanks everybody for joining, and thank all of you. Awesome resources that you've shared. We're going to be sharing that Google Doc and sending out an email with links to everything. And yeah, everyone who's on the call, I guess the one last thing I'll note is we're back in a couple of weeks for another live chat, same time, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And the next chat is going to be with Carl Palachuk, and he's coming on to basically answer any questions we have. I hope Brock's on to ask Carl some questions, and others too. So look forward to that. You'll get an email with more details. In the meantime, thanks everybody for joining, and thank all you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Great. Now,
right,
Kevin,
later.
we can go check what happened on.
Yeah,
Rose's
what's
Twitter.
going on with the Sixers? Yeah.
There you guys go.